All right, folks, the wait is over. Football season is here. The Vols Parish Jamboree starts tonight in Bunkie, Louisiana. I'm Josh Sauseda here with the Farm Bureau Insurance pregame show with new head coach of the Bunkie Panthers, Jimmie Hillman. Coach, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good. Excited for the Jamboree, ready to get after it.
Yeah, got a lot of questions. We'll try to keep this short because hopefully we'll have a long and successful season and a lot more to talk about. So let's talk about the off season. It's all about planning and preparation. Tell us about your transition to Bunkie High and some of the things you focused on with your team this off season.
Yeah, the transition went really smooth. I thought the guys bought in real well whenever I got here. Being at Marks for the last few years, I'm very familiar with these kids in this community. And, I thought the kids bought into the vision I was giving them. And we worked real hard this offseason, and we're prepared for this season.
So tonight you're going to face off against Marksville and Vols. But what are you hoping to see tonight from your team in the Jamboree? I know you're not going to come out guns a-blazing, but what are you hoping to see? What would you call a successful Jamboree?
Yeah, definitely want to take care of the football. It's still preseason right now. This game doesn't count towards our schedule, so we still want to execute. We still want to stay within ourselves and just see the kids play hard, and continue to focus on our conditioning and finish the game the way that we started and all of those good things. But it's all about us right now. We're not worried about our opponents. We'll start that next week.
I know there are a lot of fans and a lot of people in the community very optimistic this year about the team, especially since we switched districts last year. A more competitive district for us, but the talent on this roster, that's all everybody's talking about. But that's the word on the street. I want to know what goals and expectations you and your team set for yourselves this season.
Yeah, we want to be district champions, and that's something that we talk about every single day. It starts with the non-district, and we want to come out of the non-district with a winning record. That's always the first goal of the season. But there's a lot of people excited, and there's a lot to be excited about. Now it's our job, it's our responsibility to go out on the field and produce and give the fans and the community something to be proud of.
Last question, Coach. This one's a little bit about you. If you can, name some of your core values as a coach?
Wow. Toughness, I think, is the main one. Mental and physical toughness, I think that's really important. Leadership's another thing that we talk about a lot around here. Really just trying to mold young men into young boys into young men, and give them what football gave to me and to these coaches, and that's really what we try to focus on.
Coach, thank you for your time. Good luck tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Head Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunkie Panthers. First pregame interview, first of many, and he's excited, and there's a lot to be excited about. Kickoff is just moments away. This is the Vols Parish Jamboree pregame show brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Farm Bureau Insurance pregame show brought to you by yours truly, Josh Sauseda. Farm Bureau, I am here with Coach Jimmie Hillman. It is week 1 of Louisiana high school football, and it starts tonight on a Thursday as the Bunkie Panthers host the Catholic Point Capee Hornets here at home for the home opener. Very highly anticipated game. Coach, how are you doing tonight? How's the energy?
Doing good. We're excited. We're ready to get rolling.
All right, question 1. We'll rewind real quickly to last week. You had a Jamboree, had a good showing, 4 total scores, pitched 2 shutouts. But there had to be some things that stood out that needed improvement. Tell us about those and also some things that you were pleased to see.
No, I thought we executed well offensively. I thought the defense continues to lead the team, which is going to be the focus for us moving forward. We did have 1 turnover on offense, which is definitely something that we don't want to happen. But very pleased with the way that the Jamboree went, and we're just looking on building on that moving forward.
All right. Now again, it's Thursday night. It's a short week. But how does that change your routine compared to a normal Friday night? I know there's got to be some changes in the way you do things, being a short week. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it doesn't change too much for us. We just started our week on Sunday. All the guys were here Sunday afternoon. We got our first practice of the weekend. A little less contact early in the week, with the Sunday-Monday practice, just being that we had just played on Friday. But, for the most part, we've gotten everything done, on time that we usually do for a game week. So, if anything, it'll kind of help us because instead of coming in and working on Saturday, we'll finish the week out on Friday this week. So it's been a good week.
Now, Coach, I got to personally watch a little film on the Hornets. They run a different offense they did last year. Last year they were more of a veer option team. They run a spread offense. Kind of looks like what Bunky's running this year. Tough week one opponent. What was the focus this week at practice to prepare for the Hornets offensively and defensively?
Yeah, those kids play very hard. They're a physical bunch. We know that from last year playing against them. But the key for us this week was just blocking out the distractions, knowing that, this is probably going to be a game that gets a little bit chippy, and, that's fine. We don't mind playing that way. But understanding that, we're focused on ourselves. We're focused on, being 1-0 at the end of this week and not really worried about what, Catholic wants to do or how they want to play. We're going to go out and play our game.
Coach, you just mentioned something, focusing on being 1-0. I was at practice this week. I heard you talking to the kids, the players after practice, saying we have to have that 1-0 mentality. Can you elaborate on that and describe to the listeners what you actually mean?
Yeah, 1-0 mentality, it's, something that's kind of cliche, I guess you could say, but, focusing each week and making each week be about being 1-0, not worrying about the games that are in the future, not worrying about a district championship and being undefeated and all of those type of things, just worrying about what we can control right now, which is, winning this football game, being 1-0 this week, and then, next week we start all over again and work on being 1-0 that week. So it's just kind of a way to break the season up into smaller portions for us.
Good deal. Well, Coach, thank you for your time. I'm excited. I know you are. Hopefully tomorrow morning we wake up 1-0.
Yes, sir. Go Panthers.
All right, that's it. Coach Jimmie Hillman for the Bunky Panthers. Kickoff is just moments away. Catholic Point-Compete Hornets here in Bunky, Louisiana for the home opener. You're listening to Bunky Panther Radio on Z95.9. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the pregame show brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. This is Josh Sauseda here with head coach of the Bunky Panthers, Jimmie Hillman. First of all, Coach, I want to congratulate you on behalf of the Bunky community and everyone who supports the Bunky Panthers on your first win as head coach. It was a very impressive win. Just tell us how important it is to win the first game of the season.
No, I appreciate it. And, look, it was a big win for us. We knew the type of team Catholic was and, what they were capable of and, the way that they play football. And so we knew that it was going to be, a good test for us to match their physicality. And I thought the kids did a really good job of that. And, it's that 1-0 mentality that we talked about. We accomplished that goal, and we look to do it again this week.
Now, you were only up by a point at halftime last week, 7-6 going in a half. Come out the second half and just totally dominate the football game in all areas. What was said at halftime to put that spark in the team, and what adjustments were made because it was just total dominance?
Not much. We felt like we left some points on the board, in the first half and, got inside the red zone and didn't finish the drive and, kind of shot ourselves in the foot. We gave up one big play defensively to them right after that, which kind of swung some momentum their way. But, we came in at halftime and we felt good about where we were, and we knew that, we didn't finish some drives and finish some possessions the way that we needed to, and, that became the focus for the second half. And then obviously, Dylan Compton had a phenomenal second half, made some really big plays for us, as well as, a couple other guys, Jatarian Gaines and Taryn Lemoyne did really well, and that defense really hunkered in, so we were able to, to capitalize in the second half.
Now tonight we host Patterson. The Lumberjacks are 1-0 coming here, so 2 1-0 teams. Somebody's going to leave here with a loss. So looking at Patterson, I know you watched film, and they're probably a different team than they were last year. So is Bunky. But what are some matchups you think you can take advantage of tonight?
Yeah, they got some good players, and there's definitely some places that we like. And some things that we're looking to do, but a big key for us is going to be our interior run game. That we're really going to look to move the ball inside, and we feel like we have some good matchups there. Defensively, it's just going to be about they got a couple receivers who, can give us some problems. It's going to be about being good in our technique and coverage there, and send some guys after the quarterback and try to make them get rid of it quick.
Now, are there any matchups you're concerned about? Any deficits you're hoping to overcome?
No, not concerned with any matchup. We just got to go out there and execute, and we'll be fine at the end of the night.
Very confident of you. I like it. Good luck tonight, Coach. And, hey, let's go 1-0 in week 2, right?
1-0. That's where we're going.
All right, that's Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunky Panthers. You're listening to the Farm Bureau Insurance pregame show. Kickoff is just moments away. You're listening to Bunky Panther Radio on Z95.9. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Farm Bureau Insurance pregame show. I'm Josh Sauseda here with Coach Jimmie Hillman. Coach, congratulations, first of all, 2-0. How does it feel to be a 2-0 at this point? I mean, you can't get off to a better start than that.
No, it's good. Guys are playing really well. We're trying to keep it into perspective, keeping that 1-0 mentality. We talk about it every week, and, it's good that we've handled business up until this point, and, now we're just getting ready for the next one.
Now, last week, big win against Patterson, but we can't talk about last week without talking about the defensive performance. Just completely dominated the game. Patterson even showed 3 or 4 different formations, a lot of personnel. Talk about that defensive performance.
No, the defense played great. They held Patterson to 9 rushing yards and 41 passing. They really didn't do much against us. I thought our box played extremely well. And our linebackers were flying around and making plays. But, the way we play defense, they can't do that if our guys in coverage don't do it, do their job. And Kyle Johnson, J.J., Ron, they did their job, and they took those receivers out of the game and allowed us to play, a lot of pressure up front, which worked out well for us.
Now, tonight we played Jonesboro Hodge, led by quarterback Simeon Malone, and they've shown already this year that they can take advantage of some mistakes, particularly in the air, passing the ball. How do you plan to stop them, their passing attack tonight?
Yeah, no, we have a lot of trust in our DBs, and we're going to let those guys get out there and go play against their guy. May the best man win, and we're gonna do what we do defensively. We're going to bring pressure with our linebackers and our defensive line, and we're going to make that quarterback, make throws. And at the end of the day, if he can make more throws than we can stop, then, that'll be what it'll be.
All right, let's talk about the Panthers real quick. Dylan Compton did come out for a few quarters, returned briefly, and then out again. Talk about his status, what happened. Is he ready to go this week? And does that change your offensive game plan?
Yeah, no, he's full go ready this week. He's had a great week of practice. Came in Saturday morning with a little bit of stiffness. He hit his ribs on the bench. And had a pretty good bruise. We put him back in the game in the second half to just kind of see how he felt. And we felt good that he could have finished the game, but, the game plan just didn't really call for it, so we figured we'd start resting him. But he's full go, 100% ready for tonight.
Now, when he did come out, this may not have been a part of the original game plan, but we leaned heavily on senior running back Tanner Lemoyne. Had a big game, 3 touchdowns, almost 200 yards rushing, I think over 20 yards, 20 carries on the night. Can we expect to see that moving forward?
Yeah, well, we're always going to move the ball the best way that we can, however we can. Once Dylan went down, the game plan kind of shifted a little bit, and just the way that our defense was playing, we wanted to run the football and take as much clock as we could to put those guys in the best position that we could. But we have a lot of confidence, not only in Tanner, but in that offensive line that he's running behind. And that's the big-time strength of our offense, and those guys were doing really well, so we just kept it going. But tonight, we'll see, what the game plan calls for and what's working the best for us.
All right, final question, Coach. This is your first road trip of the season. Everything's been working your way. We've been comfortable at home, got 2 wins at home. Tell us how you prepare the team for a road trip to play in a different environment.
Yeah, the preparation's the same. Some of the focuses throughout the week are more on understanding that we're going to need to be in a good mental state whenever we leave here and focused for a long bus trip and things like that, and understanding that when we go on the road, we're going into someone else's home where they have a lot of pride in and want to defend that. So it's going to be a lot tougher on the road. It always will be. But I feel like we've had a good week of practice and our guys are ready for the challenge.
Thank you for your time, Coach. Good luck tonight.
Yes, sir. Go Panthers.
The Panthers continue to have that 1-0 mentality and looking to stay undefeated here on the road against Jonesboro Hodge tonight. Kickoff is just moments away. You're listening to Bunky Panther Radio on Z95.9. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Farm Bureau Insurance pregame show. I'm Josh Sauseda, here with Coach Reagan Lemoyne, the defensive coordinator for the Bunky Panthers, and head coach Jimmie Hillman. It is week 4 of Louisiana high school football. We got a parish rivalry tonight here in Mooreville. First questions for you, Coach Reagan. Let's rewind real quick. Last week, Panthers put up a lot of points, gave up very little points, and a very impressive win against Jay Hodge. To me, the DB stood out in that performance against a Jay Hodge team who has some success passing the ball this year. Talk about their performance and anything else defensively that stood out to you.
Yeah, well, Josh, it's first of all, it's great to be here in Mooreville. In Paris rivalry tonight, 3-0 against the Mustang team that's going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at you. But last week going in, you saw a 10 personnel team, a lot of 2x2, 3x1 sets, pass happy. So we knew our DBs were going to have some challenges. But for the most part, we were able to take it away. Kyle Johnson has continued to do an outstanding job taking away their best guy. Jariel Johnson, Ron Patterson, those guys went out there, and they were able to pretty much lock down guys. I think they had 58 yards passing all night long. And they've just done a tremendous job from day one, coming into fall camp all the way through to here we are going into week 4. They've done a great job. I think JJ has about 13 targets to him, and I don't think he's allowed a catch yet.
Impressive.
So our DBs are playing really well. They've really bought into this style of defense, playing cover 0 man-to-man. But our entire unit, our entire unit defensively is playing a very physical brand of football. It's something that I haven't seen in probably the 10 years that I've been affiliated with Bunkie football, and so it's been a very exciting first couple of weeks. This week it's going to be a lot different than 10 personnel. We're gonna get an offense that you can fit in your living room, but we're gonna go out there and we look to continue our physical dominance up front this week.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit more tonight. All right, the Bulls Mustangs. You faced that offense before. It's a very grinding game. It's like playing in a phone booth, double tight, double wing, some tosses, counters. Talk about that ground game and how you plan to stop it tonight.
Look, it's a tough offense, and it doesn't really matter, who it is and how many athletes or how many athletes they have, how many athletes they don't have. It's a tough offense to defend. It's foot to foot, like you said. You can do it in a phone booth. This week for us, it's important that we trust our reads. Our inside backers have to read guard, trust that. We got a guy playing fullback, 2 guys cross-keying wings on the edge. Our safeties are going to be up high, filling alleys and cutbacks, and that's going to be the thing that you have to look for tonight is can that backside linebacker feel that cut? You look at a team that you look at an Vols team, and the most success that they have is on those cutbacks, and so. Can our backers, our 3 talented backers, young but talented backers at that, can they defend that cutback lane and be able to stop them? And it's going to be 4 downs. They're not going to punt very often. I don't expect them to punt tonight. And so you can expect another hard-fought game tonight.
Thank you for your insight, Coach Reagan. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, Josh.
All right, now on the offensive side of the ball, let's talk to Coach Jimmie Hillman. Put up a lot of points last week, 54 points, really impressive. What matchups do you like tonight against the Vols defense?
No, I thought our offense played really well last week. I thought the key for me was just efficient. We didn't have a ton of plays. We didn't have a ton of yards, but we put the ball in the end zone 8 times. Our quarterback had a really good game, 3 through the air, 2 on the ground. I thought we moved the ball well. I thought we did what we were supposed to do. Tonight, we'll see a similar type defense to what our guys face against ourselves with our defense. A lot of man coverage, a loaded box. It's going to be important that we make plays on the perimeter when we have opportunities to, and we take care of the football, have our blocks up front, and just move the ball however we can.
Now, it's not talked about much, but it's kind of known around here. Vols has gotten the better of us the last 2 years with, pretty high point margins. So there's got to be some chips on some shoulders here in the locker room, and maybe some coaches from the past few years. Does that play a part in motivating the kids? If so, how do you use it, and how do you keep the team focused?
Well, look, they gave me 72 last year at a different school, so I've been a part of it as well. Look, they had a very successful team the last few years, and they did what they did, and that's all power to them. But look, we're going to get out there and we're going to do what we got to do to be 1-0. The kids are excited about the opportunity. This is just the next game for us. It's nothing more than another opponent, in parish rival, all of those things. But we're looking to start a new tradition tonight against them.
I like that, Coach. Last question: 3 games into the season, if you could describe your football team in one word, what would that be?
Hungry.
Hungry. There you have it. The Panthers looking to stay hungry and remain undefeated here in tonight's parish rivalry game against the Vols Mustangs. Kickoff is just moments away. Keep it tuned here. You're listening to Bunky Panther Radio on Z95.9. Hello, everybody. This is Josh Sauseda. You're listening to the Farm Bureau Insurance pregame show here on Bunky Panther Radio. One of the biggest games in the state of Louisiana is happening tonight, and I get the privilege of sitting down and talking football with one of the head coaches of those teams, the Bunky Panthers, Jimmie Hillman. Coach, how are you tonight?
Hey, we're doing good.
Real quick, we'll rewind quickly to last week, just talk about it. You scored the most points you scored all year last week, but you also gave up the most points against a very well-coached Buckeye team, very aggressive team. What do you take away as a team after a hard-fought battle like that?
Well, look, what you take away is, at some point, throughout the year, you're going to battle adversity. We've done that a couple of times this year, and last week was another example. Very well-coached team. Coach McLaughlin did a great job. They had a great game plan for us. Defensively, we struggled early on. And then the defense would come off the field, offense would go on the field and then score in 2 plays, and then defense was right back out. So our defense really played a lot of plays early on in the game, and I feel like at halftime we settled in and made some adjustments that we needed to. But look, it's not always the way that you want it to go, but a win's a win, so we're happy about it.
That's right. So let's talk about the task at hand. 7-0 Bunky hosting 7-0 Gina. Talk about their offense and the plan to slow down their running game, who's led by all-district MVP Zerick Jones. Yeah,
look, very, very well-disciplined team, a good split-back team. They're very big up front. They're going to look to run the ball. They're going to look to control the line of scrimmage. Zerick's been the Ditches MVP for the last 2 years. He's a really hard back to bring down. We feel like we have a good game plan in place. We're just going to need to go out and execute, but you're not going to stop them. We're going to do our best to slow them down, but the key is going to be there's going to be some key downs, some key plays, some big situations. And if we win enough of those, we'll be successful tonight.
Now, you don't get to 7-0 without having a good defense also. Gina has a good defense. So this week at practice, watching film, do you see any key matchups you're looking forward to tonight?
Well, look, we're going to continue to just try to stay balanced, which we've done all year. Dylan Compton, our quarterback's been playing at a really high level the last few weeks. We'll look to ride the hot hand, so to speak, early on. But Gina's going to have a good game plan. They're going to play good defensively. We're going to have multiple guys, making plays with the football, and our offensive line is going to have their best performance of the year.
Now, Coach, going back to week 1, you told me, you had the motto, 1-0 this week, 1-0 this week. That will ultimately turn into a district championship. You were talking about a district championship week 1. Mm-hmm. You beat Gina. You're in arm's length away from that championship. But you got a young Panther team. Or you think they're ready for the bright lights and the big stage tonight?
No, we're ready. We're well prepared. These guys have, they've answered every test, that they've had so far this year. This is the next test. It's a big game. You have to earn the right to play in big games. These guys have. They've done it all year long. We're going to look to play together and play as one unit, play as one team, and, may the best team win.
Biggest game thus far. Just one more question, Coach. What is your message to the team before you lead them into battle here at Panther Stadium?
Let's do it together. Whatever happens, we're going to do it together. We know what we want. We know what we're here to do. But at the end of the day, no one's season ends today. We still have a game next week. We still have playoffs ahead of us. There's going to be more big games ahead of us. So we're going to do it. We're going to give it 110%. We're going to do it together.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck.
Yes, sir. Go Panthers.
The battle of the unbeatens here in Bunky, Louisiana. The undefeated Bunky Panthers host the Gina Giants here for this district showdown. Kickoff is just moments away. You're listening to the Farm Bureau Insurance pregame show on Bunky Panther Radio, Z95.9. Hello, everybody. This is Josh Sauseda. You're listening to the Farm Bureau Insurance pregame show. I'm here with Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunky Panthers. We're going to talk some football. Coach, you suffered the first loss of the season. I mean, we're in week 9. I'm talking about week 8, first loss. That's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
It tells you how good of a season you're having. Lost to a very talented, well-coached Gina Giants team last week. What do you think is the biggest difference of that game?
Well, one thing that we talked about throughout the week was that, we knew it was going to be a tight game. And when you play against those high-caliber teams, that can match you skill-wise and size-wise, it comes down to a few key plays, and there were some key plays in that game that just really didn't go our way that, between execution and really experience plays a big factor in that as well. But you've got to be able to execute and make those key plays. We weren't able to do that. Gina was able to do that. Hats off to them. And, they got a great group of guys and some guys on that team that have a lot of experience playing in big games like that. So hats off to them, but real proud of the effort, that those guys showed in the fight against a really good team.
Absolutely. As head coach, how do you use a game like that to motivate the team moving forward? You got a young team, just suffered their first loss. That can go two ways. Right. But moving forward, how do you use that big game, that atmosphere, and that loss to motivate them? Well,
one thing that we talked a lot about was that, we're still off to a good start. We still have a good team. We're still going to, make it to the postseason and look to make a run in the playoffs. So, when we get deep in the playoffs, if that's what ends up happening, that's the type of caliber teams we're going to face. So it's a good experience. We wanted to win bad and get that outright district championship that we've been chasing. But at the end of the day, good experienced team. I think we learned a lot from it. And, we've had a good week, and that loss to Gina can be the best thing for us, if we allow it to be.
Now, how's the overall health of the team? I know Tanner Lemoyne might still be nursing an ankle injury. You were missing John Keith Lavallee last week after a very physical game last week. Any key injuries or anything like that?
Huck Pius had a little bit of a shoulder injury. He'll be out this week. John Keith is still recovering from that knee injury. We're hoping to get both of them back for Week 10 and possibly the postseason. But other than that, we came out pretty good. A couple little dings here and there, but for the most part, we'll be full go tonight.
All right, you got the Bolton Bears tonight, and then the Cat Skin next week, the big Cat Skin game. 2 weeks left in the regular season. What is your main focus, or what is the main thing you're looking at to improve to finish strong?
Well, we've got to get better at some fundamental things that I think we were not at our best last week. But the key thing for us right now is to finish the season. The teams that make runs in the playoffs aren't always the best teams. They're just playing the best football at the right time. So for us, we learned from Gina. We want to put it behind us these next 2 weeks and get back to playing our brand of football and be ready to make a push in the postseason.
All right, Coach. Good luck tonight. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Go Panthers.
Panthers look to put another one in the win column. They're here in Alexandria, Louisiana tonight, take on the Bolton Bears. Kickoff is just moments away. This is the Farm Bureau Insurance pregame show on Bunky Panther Radio, Z95.9.